the reason we want to make sure that we are dressed up, right? And we got a great belt on and the tie is tied appropriately and our shoes look good is it's what we call a ready to serve mentality. So it's differentiation, it's a ready to serve mentality. And then lastly, it's, well, we really want to establish ourselves as professionals in an industry that is not always incredibly professional.
You're an inspiration to our entire organization.
Welcome to the Gym Marketing Made Simple podcast. We're going to be talking the done-for-you marketing and sales strategies proven to work with boutique fitness gyms to increase quality lead flow and grow your revenue. Don't try to be a professional marketer and waste tons of money. Let the experts at Lasso do it for you. And now, here are your hosts, Blake Ruff and Sherman Merritt.
Another episode of Gym Marketing Made Simple. Today, we have a very special guest, Luke Carlson from Discover Strength. If you don't know what that is, don't worry. We are going to tell you. So first of all, Luke, thanks for hanging out with us, man. We really do appreciate it.
That's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So let's sort of jump right into it. Give us a little, because I don't know how many of our listeners really know what Discover Strength is. So give us a little background on it. Give us a little 2 or 3 minute sort of rundown on what Discover Strength is.
Yeah, the whole focus of Discover Strength is time efficient, evidence-based strength training. So we opened our first studio 19 years ago, 2,000 square feet, one studio, 30-minute strength training workouts, everything to muscle failure. Client works out twice a week. We don't touch anything outside of strength training, no cardio, no nutrition. We're not talking about recovery. It is just strength training with a personal trainer. Everything is one-on-one or small group. We launched 19 years ago with that first studio, added a second studio, a third studio, a fourth studio, fifth. Eventually, 3 years ago, we started franchising. So now we're in 10, 11 different states. Franchise locations, company-owned locations. We're really the largest strength training boutique fitness concept in North America.
Ah, okay. Yeah, no, I love the strength training. Like, I love that. Obviously, that's sort of been something that sort of caught on specifically over the last, few years. So, because, you've been in the industry long enough to know people ran away from strength. Like, these women don't want to get bulky and all that stuff. But now it's sort of coming full circle. So, all right. So tell me this, because I was on your page and I see you guys. I don't know exactly how many locations you have now, but I know there seems like there's a ton of locations getting ready to open up. So, what's sort of your, I would say, 3 to 5 year goal? Like, where are you guys going? And what if someone's interested in opening up a studio? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, great question. So we want to be 1 year from today. We want to be at 100 locations that are open or they're awarded if they're a franchise and they're really close to getting open. So we have 24 studios open right now. We have another 20 to 24 that are kind of really in progress. By the end of 2025, 100 locations. If it's 96 locations, we're fine, right? That's where we want to be, roughly there. And then over the long haul, so moving toward like 2035, so it gives us another 10 years, we want to be at 250 locations, which in the world of boutique fitness is not that many locations. Like, we have no interest in being 1,000 locations or 4,000 locations because our experience is a little bit different, higher price point. We've always fancied ourselves the Ritz-Carlton of fitness. There's only 44 Ritz-Carltons in all of North America. So our focus is a really distinctive client experience. So that means we want to have less locations, but they got to be in the right markets with wonderful managers and great exercise physiologists working there. So that's where we're going long term. Our ego is not attached to more locations. Our ego is attached to the client experience, the net promoter score, and then the revenue and profit that each studio is actually producing.
I like that. See, so I like a person that can talk about stuff 10 years down the road, right? Like, so many people, they're so stuck on, like a year, 2 years down the road. But I love to hear you say, well, 10 years down the road. That's sort of like, that's a good spot for me, because so many people, they're thinking quick, but you're talking about 10 years down the road. And like, I love that. So I know you guys are going to have huge success.
I got a question for you, Luke. Looking through your stuff, like you guys are unique in, or maybe it's not unique, but I owned a personal training studio, did personal training with a lot of high-end clients, like CEOs and things like that. I think I noticed one big thing. All of your guys wear very professional attire. So I think that's something, it's different, right? Like I see guys in business suits training people. Tell us about, I think, two things that you mentioned there, the client experience and the net promoter score. I'm really interested in those.
Yeah, great question. So let me comment on the actual the first aspect of what you said, the shirt and tie. When I was 22 years old, I visited in Sherman's backyard, Gainesville Health and Fitness. I mean,
Oh, Joe Cerulli, that's my
yeah,
guy.
yeah, the
He's a
most
legend.
profitable health club in the world. And so, I met Joe when I was 22, and he became a wonderful mentor and teacher. And I walked into that club, and I was a strength and conditioning coach in the NFL at the time. And I hadn't been in very many health clubs, but everybody had a shirt and tie on in that club. I mean, all the staff did. And I thought, wow, this is really professional. And so I said, when I start a business, I'm going to make sure that we are differentiated even around our professional attire. And so what we say today is the reason we dress professionally is because, one, it's differentiation, right? If we wore Lululemon or Vuori or Nike, we would look good. We just wouldn't look different. And I wanted to make sure we look different from the beginning. And then I'm inspired by, I mentioned the Ritz-Carlton, the Four Seasons, these kind of elevated customer experiences where when you go to the Ritz-Carlton, the individual opening the door for you to that hotel, they're wearing, almost a three-piece suit, right? So the mentality is they got ready to serve you today, right? The reason they are dressed up is because they got ready to serve you. And so the reason we want to make sure that we are dressed up, right? And we got a great belt on and the tie is tied appropriately and our shoes look good is what we call a ready to serve mentality. So it's differentiation, it's a ready to serve mentality. And then lastly, we really want to establish ourselves as professionals in an industry that is not always incredibly professional. And so we want to make sure that we dress accordingly or appropriately. So that's that decision. Now, the rest of your question, Blake, was around, can you just repeat it?
Yeah, the net promoter score. Like, what are you tracking with that?
So we use, a company that obviously sends out the email to our customers. There's a million different vendors. When the people at Bain built Net Promoter Score, they built it open source, so anybody can use it. We use Listen 360, and clients receive it after a certain number of workouts, and we look at the last 365 days. And right now we're at 93 across our entire system, and that's where we've been pretty consistently for the last few years, which we're really proud of because we've grown a lot of locations, and to be able to retain a Net Promoter Score that high is powerful. Now, a lot of times, people that use the Net Promoter Score don't understand what it really means. Net Promoter Score is a measure of customer loyalty, clearly, but it's really a measure of customer love. The guy that created it said, my first name for it was Net Lives Enriched. And he's like, I don't think Steve Jobs will go for that. I'm going to change it to Net Promoter Score. But it's when a customer does business with you, do they feel like their life is enriched? So much so that when they walk out of the door, when they're done doing business with you, they have to go tell somebody else. And of course, they are committed to coming back. They want to come back and bring their friends. And to me, that's the only way to grow a business. Now, Net Promoter Score also over the last 12 years has become the best long-term predictor of profitable growth for any firm in any industry. So we don't think we should target a Net Promoter Score. Instead, the Net Promoter Score is, let's just let the chips fall where they may on how we're delivering on our brand experience. And when people say things like brand experience, that sounds so esoteric. But for us, it's about 7 different things. It's, are we living our core values? Are we delivering on our 3 strategic anchors, the 3 things that really make us different? Are we executing in our strategic niche, which is our real focus on the business that we're in? It's all these things. That's what the brand experience actually is. And we want to make sure we do is we don't have a say-do gap on what we're saying we are as a brand, right? Or, hey, what you should expect when you come in for a workout with us, and what you actually experience. So that's a say-do gap. When there's no say-do gap, that's truly that's delivering on the brand experience. And that's how you win over customers and earn great Net Promoter Scores. So a lot of times people think Net Promoter Score is just how good you are at customer service. It's more than that, right? We can provide legendary customer service, but if the workout is poor, it's truly not an experience that's going to create long-term loyalty with our customer. And when we say loyalty, we mean loyalty of checkbook, right? But also loyalty of heart. So if a customer stops doing business with us, they're still referring to us. They still think about us positively. And 5 years down the road, when their life changes, they're going to come back as a customer again. So Net Promoter Score is just a measure of how well you're delivering on that brand experience.
Love it.
Oh, that's good. So
I think one question I have for you, like, go ahead, Sean. You're good.
no. I was just gonna say right quick, Luke. It's funny because I think you're the second or third person I've talked to, just mentioning Gainesville Health and Fitness and Joe Cerulli. So I had a CrossFit gym here in town for 13 years, and when I first started, one of my buddies was like, you should reach out to the guy that owns Gainesville Health and Fitness and ask him for help. I was like, this dude's not gonna help me. He has a And I reached out to him via Facebook. He responded same day, and we used to have breakfast or lunch throughout my gym career. Always the nicest guy in the world. When I go in there, he's around, so unassuming. If you don't know him, you don't know him because he's walking around dressed like everyone else, maybe picking up trash, maybe sweeping the floor. I'll make sure that when I see him, I told him that I talked to you on the podcast. It's a small world, so that's crazy. Yeah.
Sherman, it's it's impossible to walk with Joe Cirilli in the club or in their parking lot and not have him pick up trash. And so, like, I've learned so much just by watching how he interacts. I remember being 22 in his club, and we're walking from the parking lot, and if there was a speck of garbage in the parking lot, he would jog 3 steps away and pick it up and put it in his pocket and get it in a trash can eventually. So I learned from him very early on that a health club, a fitness facility, a gym has to be like surgically clean. That's the foundation of customer experience. And so Joe is the real deal. He's one of the greatest leaders of humans that I've ever interacted with. So I was there visiting the club a couple weeks ago. I brought one of my longtime employees. It was his 60th birthday. And we came down to Jacksonville to see the Vikings. We're from Minnesota, so we went to the Vikings-Jaguar game. And I thought, we're so close to Gainesville, we got to tour the Gainesville Health and Fitness.
Oh man, that's amazing. Look, you're right here in my backyard. That's cool. Blake, what were you saying?
Yeah, so I want to, personal training, like it's once you high-end clients, right? Everybody would love more personal training. We know it drives revenue really fast, and and they're long-term clients if you do a great job, right? You change their life, they can afford it, they see the results, super accountability program, personalized to them. But I think a lot of people listening to this are wondering, getting all of these locations, how do you grow them? Are you doing paid marketing? Is it all just referral based? What, for the people listening, like, I want to grow my personal training program, what would you tell them to do?
Yeah, so here's our big learning. So for probably 15 years, I said, marketing is incredibly important, but the strategy is more important than the tactics. Okay. And so I'll speak to that in a second. The real way you grow a personal training business is by word of mouth and referrals. And so there's this wonderful quote from Jay Baer, and he wrote a book called Talk Triggers. And he said, advertising is the cost for unremarkable products or services. And if you have a remarkable product or service, you don't spend much money on advertising because people just walk out the door and tell others. And I truly believe that. And so we've always said that if you're delivering a workout where people aren't walking out the door and they're not compelled to share it with somebody else, then we didn't do our job. So I think that's the best way to grow the personal training business. And I have so many colleagues and so many friends in our industry that reach out to me and say, well, we're just not growing. And I said, well, then they ask, what should I do from a marketing standpoint? And I say, I think you should just focus on improving your workout experience. And they say, no, the workout's dialed in. I said, it's not. No product or experience is dialed in if you're not receiving referrals. Now, I've been saying that for 18 years. Alex Ramosi now says that all the time, and I feel a little bit validated. I don't think he stole it from me, but he says the reality is your product or service is not as good as you think it is. So that's my obsession, is that you got to make the workout better. Now, what Jay Baer would say is there has to be talk triggers built into your experience. And a talk trigger is just a way of operationalizing these elements that compel a customer to talk about your brand experience, right? So one of our talk triggers, and silly, is, hey, we're wearing a shirt and tie, right? People leave our facility and they mention, oh, that's the place where they wore a shirt and tie. That's one of our talk triggers. One of our talk triggers is intensity. And for us, intensity means using advanced overload techniques or training beyond the point of muscle failure. There's pretty good research that says if you train to failure, that works as well as training beyond failure. We're always going to train beyond failure because people walk out the door and they can't help but share with somebody else what they did in that workout. So I think a brand has to identify what are the 2-3 things that actually compel a customer to talk about us. So those are a couple of our talk triggers. And then what you do is you operationalize them and make sure they happen every single time. Now, there's a lot of things in your business that you're doing every single time. Consistency is key, but you have to make sure you're consistently executing on the things that customers actually talk about to drive those referrals. So that's the starting point. Now, I would say growing all of our locations in different markets where there's no brand awareness for who Discover Strength is we're pretty heavy into meta, so paid social. And then the key to the paid social is, are you following up with leads and actually nurturing the leads? And if you asked me that 2 years ago, I didn't know that. I just thought, hey, you got some meta going on in the background and leads come in and people will come in for a workout and they'll love the workout. But now we realize, oh, leads are coming in, but you have to call the leads. And if you really work the leads, if you call the leads and you have a great lead nurture strategy of calling and calling again and then texting and then emailing, and you make 100 calls a day and you set aside time to do that, you're going to convert. Now, most people don't want to do that, but if they do that, you're going to convert. And even if the conversion is 2 to 3 conversions out of 100 calls, that is worth the time. So we do that to build the studio to a certain client volume, and then the client referral kind of takes over. But you can't rely on client referrals when you literally have 0 clients to start off with. So that's our big focus. And then we love events as well. So if we can attend a networking event, a BNI meeting, we love events. In the old days, I went to events and I thought people would just meet me and I would mention Discover Strength and they would want to come in for a workout. Now we realize at events, it has to be about lead capture. Like, what are we doing to get emails and phone numbers? And are we calling those phone numbers? And then do we have the emails going into drip email campaigns? And our conversion is so much better from events than it was, 10, 12 years ago. So first foundation is a workout that has talk triggers in it, this remarkable experience where people talk about it. And then number 2, it's a combination of meta and actually following up with those leads, events, and actually following up with those leads.
That's good. So,
Nice.
with us, obviously, we're a paid marketing agency. You just gave a whole class on what we harp to people so much, right? They come to us, right, Luke? They're trying to grow. They want to get to the next level, and we tell them, hey, listen, like, we aren't going to say that anything is free, so we're not going to attract really low quality leads. We are going to talk about things that these people want, but some people are going to follow protocol. Some people are going to be easy. They're going to do exactly what you want. They're going to see an ad. They're going to come in. They're going to sign up. Voila, bam. Most people, though, you're going to have to work for this lead. You have to work to get them to sign up because they didn't know you before the ad. They didn't trust you. They don't know anything about you. So now they want to know, okay, can this gym really solve my problem? And like you said, it takes hundreds of phone calls. It takes time every single day because I can't tell you how many people we have working with us, sort of on and off, and they'll start working with us because they're getting leads, they're getting some signups, but they're not getting enough when they're not doing the bare minimum basics on lead follow-up. So I definitely love to hear you talking about that, having a franchise, sort of the bare bones, what it takes. I love that. Can you talk about that a little bit, like, because I think more people need to hear this.
Yeah, I mean, what you said is so true. You have to have the discipline to doing it. And I don't think anybody likes calling leads over and over and over. But for me, I can handle something that I don't like if I know, okay, what's, like, how long do I have to do this for? Is it an hour commitment a day, et cetera? So it's just part of the business. So I can handle that even though it's not my favorite thing. And I think that's, critical to learn. But for me, and I got to assume this is true for so many personal trainers and gym owners, is it's almost this. It's potentially my ego in that we have so many studios that have operated forever. Where I mean, they're the highest revenue per square foot fitness facilities in the world, and it's
Mm.
impossible to get on our schedule. Like I walked into one of our franchise locations late last week, and it's 1,800 square feet. There's 8 personal trainers on the floor. You can't get a spot in a workout there. I mean, like everybody is trying to get a workout in that studio, and it's like, sorry, there's no time slots available. And so you start to think, wow, we're pretty special, right? Everyone wants to get a workout with us, and it's impossible. And a time slot is so coveted. Oh my gosh, a 6 a.m. time slot on a Monday. Oh my gosh, that's an incredible thing. And then we launch a new studio, and it's crickets, right? We have no clients. And the fact that you're calling and oftentimes getting hung up on, and people saying, stop calling me, it's like, hold on, no, I'm used to people loving me. And so it's just tough on your ego when normally you're like, hey, I'm actually a big deal. People love our workouts. People fight for time slots. And now I have to like beg you to come in. So there can be some head trash around that. At least for me, there was. You got to get through that head trash and say, we got to do this foundational work first. And then you can grow to the studio and you get the referrals and you get amazing retention. And then people are fighting for those time slots and valuing those time slots. But that's just not how it is early on. And you have to remind yourself that even though I'm making all these calls and people are hanging up on me, the consumer still loves what I'm doing. They just need to come and actually experience it. Those are the reminders I needed to give to myself and we give to our team and our franchisees.
Huh, I like that. Man, that's good. That's good. Uh, yeah, I want to work with your franchisees because that makes our life easier. So tell me this. Um, how do you guys find your franchisees? Because we talked to a few franchises on here, and like all of you guys sort of do it a little bit differently. So how do you guys find franchisees to open up locations?
Pretty common early on for a lot of brands, most brands maybe in a lot of different industries where you had company owned locations first, that your first franchisees were going to be customers. And that's how it was
Hmm.
for us. Our first few
Okay.
franchisees were customers. They were fans of the brand and great background either in business, running businesses. We're entrepreneurs, and we're passionate about strength training and passionate about our brand of strength training, and then aligned with our values and our purpose and things like that. So that's where our first franchisees came from. And now we work with brokers that bring us franchise leads. But
Gotcha.
still, most of our franchisees are our customers, and
Mm.
we have a growing customer base at all times, and they're an affluent
Yep.
customer base, and they've experienced the Discover Strength workout, and they want to be a part of it. So that's where most of our leads come from. I will tell you, we get very few franchise leads that come from the health club industry. And I'm
Mm.
super involved in the health club industry. I'm on the board of directors for what used to be called URSA. Now it's the Health and Fitness Association. I mean, I'm as involved as you get. I go to the health club conferences all over the world, but we don't have many health club people interested in our concept. And I think one of the reasons is it's just so different from what they're used to. Like knowing how to run a big health club is just not beneficial for helping you run a Discover Strength. And that's no different than, McDonald's. Right? Ray Kroc
Yeah.
found out a long time ago that people that owned a restaurant that bought a McDonald's franchise, they were his worst franchisees because they didn't run the McDonald's play. They tried to run it like they ran their old restaurant.
Uh,
And so
yeah.
we're pretty committed to making sure that you got to run the play according to the Discover Strength play, right? What's our way of doing things, which could be very different than the average health club or a big box health club or a full service health club, which we are not. So that's kind of where most of our franchise leads come from. I will say this, that our real obsession is we want to be really, really tough on who we award a franchise to.
Yeah.
It's not that we're getting joy out of it, but we try to turn down most applicants. And we probably learned that from Chick-fil-A, that you got to be pretty special to be able to operate a Chick-fil-A, and we feel the same. So we don't care if you have the capital and you're passionate. You gotta jump through more significant, meaningful hoops than that, because the people that are owning our concept, the people that own Discover Strengths, I mean, they are responsible for kind of carrying the torch and representing the brand. And so we want to be very, very thoughtful on who becomes a franchisee, which is part of our long-term growth strategy, right? We don't need that many franchisees. We don't want to
Correct.
have 4,000 locations. We only want to
Correct.
have 250 locations over 10 years. We can be more selective on who that franchisee is. And the way I always look at it is whoever this franchise partner is, we're choosing to do life with them, right? Like this is like a marriage. And so, if we're choosing to do life with them, we got to be aligned in a lot of ways. So we should be really, really intentional about who we award a franchise to.
No, that's good. No, that's good. I like it. I like it. Yeah, because I do believe that being selective on who you guys allow to open up a space is really vital to your brand success because like you're saying you guys, it don't sound like you guys want to get to 250 but have gone through 1,000 owners to get to that 250. You guys are trying to, obviously there's some attrition no matter how selective you are, but you guys aren't trying to have 1,000 and then be down to 250. You want to get that number pretty locked in. So I like that because Blake and I, we've seen working with different franchises that having the wrong owner in or the wrong GM for that matter, it doesn't matter how good all the other stuff you do is. The person driving the ship, if they don't know how to drive a boat, doesn't matter. It doesn't. Nothing else matters. So no, that's good. I like that.
Amen.
So tell me this: if someone sort of brand new to fitness, not necessarily trying to open a Discover Strength or anything like that. You have all this experience. Someone brand new to fitness, they're like, I think I want to open up a gym, whether that's a big one or a small one. What are one or two pieces of advice that you would give them?
So my most important piece of advice is you got to find a way to achieve some or create some differentiation, right? And fitness professionals are bad at this. And frankly, owners are bad at this. The customer will never choose you because you're better or you're the best or because you're good. They only choose you because you're different, right? So they have to understand, how are you differentiated? So you have to choose, what do I really want to focus on? So for us in 2006, I said we only want to focus on strength training. That's it. That's the business that we're in. And then how we deliver the strength training, there was 3 differentiating capabilities or kind of 3 anchors. And I'll just tell you what ours were. Number 1, evidence-based. So everything was going to be based on scientific research. We had to point to the scientific journal to support everything we were doing. Number 2, a 30-minute workout. So we call that efficient, 30 minutes twice per week. And number 3 was expert educated trainers, meaning everyone was going to have a college degree. They were going to be an ACSM certified exercise physiologist. We were going to pay them well, et cetera. Now, that's not the only way to do it, but that is different than so much of what's out there. And so we make sure that we are committed to marketing around those points of differentiation, building the business, spending money, allocating resources to dig a moat around each one of those resources. So that's my first piece of advice: is get really narrow in your focus, be really differentiated in what you actually do. And when you do that, you have to make sure you don't listen to your customer, because your customer will ask for more services. You got to say no. Like, our customers would love to do some cardio with us. They'd love to get massages with us. They'd love to get some nutritional consultation with us. And most companies will say, well, we got to listen to the customer, and there's money to be made, but there's short-term revenue to be made, but you're damaging your ability to generate long-term revenue. So the single greatest driver in top line that we know of in the history of business is narrow the focus of what you do, right? So when Steve Jobs comes back to Apple, he's like, 90% of what we make is garbage. We're going to cut all of it. We're going to focus on like 10% of it. This is true in every conceivable category. There's a great quote from the engineer that's working for one of Apple's competitors. And he says, I mean, this is a direct quote. He says, it's not fair. Apple only has one interface. They have one phone, so they have one interface. We have over 50 phones that we make. How can I compete with that? So the less you do, the harder to compete with you become. So have that narrow focus in what you do, because you're pretty tough to beat if you do just one thing. And most entrepreneurs can't stand that, and fitness people can't stand that, because fitness people, we like all of it, right? All the fitness stuff is cool. I told you we don't do any cardio. I love cardio. I mean, I love cardio. I run marathons. I ran the New York City Marathon. I'm gonna run the Boston Marathon. I have a Stairmaster step mill in my bedroom. I love cardio, but as a business, we're not going to do it. We're going to stay focused on just strength training. So my first piece of advice would be decide what business you're in, get really focused on it. And then when you market completely around how you're actually different than the rest of the competition. And then the last thing that I would say is make sure, this is the second piece of advice, is make sure when you hire people, you understand that they don't want to be your assistant. They don't want to work for you. They want to have wonderful careers. They want to have wonderful employment experiences. So you have to ask yourself, well, what should this employment experience look like? If someone doesn't want to work for me, what do I need to be able to provide them? So spend some time thinking about what kind of employment experience do I want to deliver to my people. So many entrepreneurs in our space think, well, I'm the fitness guy. Now I've opened up a studio and someone will work for me. No, in my opinion, no one wants to be your assistant. And I don't think you should build the business as what I would call a genius with 1,000 helpers. Instead, I think you should just build a great team where everyone feels like I'm a professional, I have a big role, and it's my job to come in and execute on the key roles that I have within this seat or this position that I own. So that's the second one, is think about the employment experience that you want to provide and develop that seat. That seat means here's the key roles for what that person needs to execute on. They could step into that role and really have a great career.
Oh man, that's good.
I think
That's
one
good.
thing you said there was really one thing you said there was really good about focusing on what you do and exceeding very well at it. So many gym owners and entrepreneurs, and I'll even say we've been guilty of it. Like people do 10 different things and they're doing 10 things mediocre. Like I even tell people, they're like, hey, do you do Google ads? Do you do website? I'm like, no, because if we did all of that, we'd be mediocre at all of it. We can't do all of it. We're really, really good at Facebook and meta ads. That's what we need to focus on. And if I'm being transparent with you, you should not find a marketing company that does your social, like organic, your website, your SEO, and your paid, because they're probably doing it mediocre. Like I hear a lot of companies that are like, oh, we want one platform that does everything. Well, they're probably a C platform. Why don't you find 2 A platforms and stop being lazy and just do it, right? So I think that is such good advice. And I think that's, such a gold nugget for gym owners. They like, you don't need to go into cold therapy. You don't need to go get a sauna. You don't need to do all these other things. Like until you're at a point that you literally can't take on another client and you've exceeded and then raised your rates and got to the point where like, I literally can't. Maybe you need to go find a bigger space. Maybe not. I don't know. But at the same point, stop trying to do everything and being average at it. Be really, really, really good at one thing.
And Blake, I would echo what you said. I just change it to, instead of another client, I would say revenue. I would say pick the massive amount of revenue that you could make in this category. Until you make all that revenue, don't get out of the category, right? I mean, there's tens of millions, hundreds of millions, in some cases, billions in a particular category. Until you've made all that money in the category, don't get outside of that category.
Man, that's good. So I think we're going to end there. But Luke, if someone wants to get in contact with you, how do they do that? Tell them how to contact you.
Yeah, so 2 websites. DiscoverStrength.com is our website. And then from a franchise standpoint, DiscoverStrengthFranchise.com. And if someone wants to reach out to me individually, my email is on those websites. It's just Luke@DiscoverStrength.com. And I'm on all those social media platforms as well.
Perfect, man. Perfect. Well, guys, we're gonna stop there. There's so much information packed into this episode. So as always, tell a friend to tell a friend to tune in, and we will chat with you guys next week.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to the Gym Marketing Made Simple podcast with Blake Ruff and Sherman Merricks. We hope you enjoyed. We believe marketing should increase revenue and not waste money. So book your free call today. Head on over to lassoframework.com. That's LASSOFRAMEWORK.com and find the right words, get more customers, and increase your revenue. We'll see you here next time.